Hey guys, it's Christy with Christy's Custom Creations, and today I want to show everyone how I made these UV resin pins. And the cool thing about UV resin is you can literally do these pins in just like an hour or two. It's so awesome because it's so fast drying. But I have been looking for something to basically be able to cure these pins in my Sunlu Lightbox that I have. And I have recently made this new friend named Carol. She's with the Stylish Dragon, and Carol has designed this awesome pin twist and stand attachment, and it goes perfectly inside the Sunlu box. And the Sunlu box, in case you don't know, it is a UV light box, and it's got a little spinning pedestal in the middle, and it basically spins whatever you stick in there once the door is closed underneath UV light. So it's awesome. So this pin twist and stand, it has some little attachments, and they actually screw into the pins. They go into the thread of the pins there, and then they go onto this little stand. And it also comes with a wand attachment and everything, and it fits perfectly inside my Sunlu light box, which is what I have been looking for forever, y'all. It's absolutely perfect. So this video here is my very first time giving this pin twist and stand a try, so I wanted to share it with y'all. And in case you haven't noticed, those 4 glitters in the background are 4 glitters that are part of my KCC glitter line that has just launched. I'll tell you more about it in the video, but this is the UV resin that I use. I buy it on Amazon. It came in a 2-pack, which is really nice because then I've got plenty of it, because I have really found to like this UV resin. This is my favorite UV resin so far that I have tried out, and I bought it on Amazon, and I will link it down in the description box below so that it's easier for you to find. So I'm going to apply the glitter to these pins basically the same way that you would apply glitter if you were doing the epoxy method. So I'm going to put a very light, thin coat of this UV resin onto the pin, and just make sure you get really good coverage. Don't push any of it inside. And I actually decided to just, put the light coat on there and then set it onto the stand here so that it could just chill while I put UV resin on the other ones. Looking back, I didn't have any issues doing it that way, but looking back, I probably would have put the UV resin on and then went ahead and glittered it and put it into the Sunlu box to go ahead and start curing while I was putting the UV resin on the next pin. And you'll actually see me do this same thing later on in the video, as I kind of realized, well, while I'm doing this, the others could be drying in the box. So you'll see me do it later on in the video, but it took me a little while to kind of figure out that would be a good way to do this. So just get good coverage on the pin, and I always take my finger and I start when I'm smoothing out resin or epoxy or anything like that. I take my finger and I start in the center of the pin and I push my way out. That way I don't push any resin or epoxy inside the pin, because if you get resin or epoxy inside either end of the pin, it's going to be really difficult to get your pin back together. So you always want to be, as you can tell here, I'm super careful around the tip. I just kind of run my finger around it and I get good coverage on it, but I don't push any inside of it. So, and as you can see, I'm using a very light coat. It's just enough to make the epoxy stick, or the glitter, I'm sorry. It's just enough to make the glitter stick to these pins. Now that I've got my resin on all of these cups, I'm going to use my new glitter. It's called Rose All Day. This is an absolutely stunning rose gold glitter. I mean, it is probably one of the prettiest. I know I'm a little partial because it's my glitter line, but it is probably one of the prettiest rose golds that I have found. It is just, it's not too gold and it's not too pink. It's right there, in the middle. It's a perfect color. So I just get really good coverage all over the pen. And if you notice, I did not use the pen wand, like the attachment for it. I used it to tap off any excess glitter. But for the next ones, I realized, hey, it's actually a lot easier to just go ahead and attach the clip onto the pen wand, because it gave me better control having it attached to the wand versus just trying to hold the little nub on the end. This next color is called Baywatch, and I'm putting it over a red painted pen. And I want to mention, I prepped all these pens and I painted them before the video. I took them apart, and if you want to see how I prep my pens and take them apart and paint them and all that, I will link one of my videos that shows all of that. I will link it down in the description box. Also, I'll put a tag right here in the video so that you can see it as well. But look how stunning this red is. So the color Baywatch, or the name Baywatch for it, describes this color absolutely perfectly. So the next color that we are going to use is this it's a beautiful color. I really don't know how to describe it though. It's called Rabbit Hole, and the name is pretty fitting for it, because I mean, like, I go down the rabbit hole when I try to describe this color. It's almost like it's got black, but it's also got brown, but it's also got gold and maybe like a little hint of silver in it. It's really hard to explain this color, but it is such a cool color. I know it looks pretty black in this video, but it's actually not. It's like a brownish, goldish, blackish mix. I don't really know how to explain it. So like I said, Rabbit Hole's pretty fitting for it. And then this last color here that I am using in this video is called Rain Check, and it is just a good solid teal. And all four of these are fine glitters. They're all super pretty. I have found they are stunning under epoxy or even under resin. And it's just, like I said, it's a good solid teal here. And I just launched my website yesterday on June 5th. I launched it to my Patreon members in an early pre-launch. I wanted to have a little bit of a soft launch because I didn't really know what to expect going into it. So, all right, we have got all four of the pens glittered, and this is the Sunlu UV box. So if you look over here to the left, there's a timer, and you can set it for all the way up to 600 seconds. So I always just set it at the most. I set it at 600 seconds. And when you open the door, the light turns off. And when you close the door, the light turns on, just like that. And as you can see, the pins sit inside and they spin. So they get really good UV coverage all the way around. So I let it run for the 600 seconds. I think I may have let it run probably twice, 2 cycles of 600 seconds, just to make sure that they were good. And I decided it's time to go ahead and put my first coat of UV resin over the glitter. So I'm just going to glove up because I don't want the UV resin on my fingers. And I actually decided, since I did not seal these in with any kind of like spray sealant or anything like that, I did change out gloves and or finger cots between each pen color because I didn't want to cross contaminate. I didn't want, this rabbit hole on the rosé. And so I changed out. I used a glove for this pen here, and then after that I changed out to the finger cots so that I wasn't wasting gloves between each pen. So I am applying the UV resin the exact same way that I would apply epoxy, and it's the same way that I applied it on whenever I was applying the glitter. So you don't want big thick coats. So whenever you do epoxy on a pen, it sits on a turner and it spins. Well, like this, the pen is standing up and down, so you don't want to put too much resin on there so that it tries to fall. Whenever you stand your pen up, you don't want the resin to fall down the pen. So I put a super light coat on there because I didn't want it trying to fall down the pen and then gooping up towards the bottom. So I kept it really super light coats between each coat. So that would definitely be my suggestion. And it was about that point, and I almost knocked it over, but it was about this point that I was like, hey, I could probably go ahead and put this in there and let it start curing while I'm putting the UV resin on this one. So it worked out really good, letting the pens go ahead and spin in the Sunlu box while I put the UV resin on the pins to start sealing them in. And I want to mention the finger cots here that I have on my finger. I buy them in like huge packs on Amazon, and they are perfect for doing pins because you're not wasting gloves between each pin color. And I mean, you're not wasting a whole glove or, you know, one little pin. And with the pandemic, gloves have become very hard to find, and they've become pretty expensive. So now that this one has good coverage of the UV resin, I'm going to go ahead and swap it out. And I also want to mention the Sunlu Lightbox. I bought that on Amazon as well, and I think it was like about $40 or so. It really wasn't too bad given what it is. It's built really good. I do wish it had a little bit more powerful lights. And one adjustment that I'm probably going to make is I'm probably going to put some aluminum foil inside of it to help reflect the light just a little bit, because I think that by putting aluminum in there, aluminum foil in there, it will really just magnify that UV light. Because I had recently done the ice lid toppers on a tumbler, and I actually did that over aluminum foil, and the aluminum foil was awesome. It made that UV resin, the same UV resin that I'm using here, it made it dry so incredibly fast. So I think that is one adjustment I'm going to make to the Sunlu box. Other than that, I love this box, especially with the 3D printed twist and stand. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, I have launched a KCC glitter line, and the website actually pre-launched yesterday. It pre-launched to my Patreon group. And so if you are interested in being involved in the pre-launch, I will have the link to my Patreon group below, and you can check it out there. My Patreon members, they will have early access to all of my glitters before anybody else does. They will also have a coupon code, a constant all the time coupon code for everything on the site. So that is a bonus to only my Patreon members that they will have all the time. So, but yeah, the pre-launch went awesome yesterday, and I am so incredibly humbled by the support from my Patreon members. I love each and every one of them. They are amazing, and I am so incredibly grateful for their support and their excitement to watch me grow. But anyways, enough about that. So I am done coating this pen, and that I love that rose gold on this pen. So I'm going to let these 4 pins spin in the box, and I think I let them do about 2 rounds at the 600 seconds, so right about 1200 seconds. And after that, I pulled them out for their next coat of UV resin. And as I mentioned before, each coat, I'm doing a nice thin coat because I don't want the UV resin dripping off of them since they're standing up and down. And I didn't have any issues. By doing a nice thin coat, I had no issues at all. The resin cured super nice and smooth on all of these pins. And I'm just going to do the exact same thing and get a good coat on there, smoothing it out with my finger, starting at the middle and pushing outward. And since y'all have seen me do this over and over again now, I'm going to go ahead and speed this portion of the video up significantly, and we'll go from there. All right, so I let these things spin in here in the UV box for about 2 or 3 rounds. I probably did about 3 rounds this time at 600 seconds each, and they are nice and dry. So I have got my sandpaper. I buy my sandpaper on Amazon. It's a sticky backed sandpaper, so it makes it really easy. I just stick it to my fingers, and it makes it so easy to sand pins, tumblers, whatever. And it is a 220 grit sandpaper. I will have it linked down in the description box below. And I did find it easier to sand the pin by taking the little pin attachment off of it. So I just sanded it right around the edges just a little bit. It did not need much at all because the glitter covered up really well with underneath the resin, and so I didn't have much roughness at all, so I barely needed to sand the body portion of the pin, barely. So mainly just focused on the edges just a little bit, just to smooth it out, not much because you don't want to sand away any glitter. So and once they are all sanded, I go ahead and take them to the sink and I give them a nice bath in Dawn dish soap. So here they are, nice and clean, and I'm going to put them back onto the little attachments. Like I said before, they just screw right on very nicely. And I don't like to, I found that I didn't want to push the pin all the way down to the attachment because I want to leave a little bit of room there to get the edge of the pin with the resin as I'm putting the resin on. So I did leave a slight gap right there, which I found more useful. You could put it all the way down, but I didn't really see much of a reason why to. So it is time to go ahead and start putting the last coat of UV resin on these pins. Now, if you wanted to personalize these pins just prior to this last coat, that would be at what point you wanted to do that. So you could personalize them by putting a water slide on them. You could cut a name in vinyl. You could wrap it in a water slide. You could really do whatever you wanted to do. I just wanted to leave these pins blank because it was easier for tutorial purposes, and so I just went ahead and put this last coat of resin on there so that I could get them spinning. And once I got this last coat on, on this pin here, I'm going to put it onto the stand, stick it in the UV box so that it can start curing while I put the UV on the other pins. And as I mentioned before, whenever you put either UV resin or epoxy or whatever on the pins, you want to be very, very, very careful not to push epoxy or resin up inside the pin. So I get it on the pin, and then as I smooth it out, I start in the middle with my finger and I push out, working my way around the pin. And by doing it that way, I literally never get epoxy or resin inside my pins. And I think I mentioned this before, the Sunlu UV box I purchased on Amazon, the UV resin I purchased on Amazon, the finger cots I purchased on Amazon. My glitter is from kccglitter.com, and then the pin twist and stand came from the Stylish Dragon. And I will have everything linked down in the description box below. So now that they have their last coat of resin on, they are doing their last few spins. I let them spin for about 4 cycles through the Sunlu box just to make sure that they were really good and dry. Once they were dry, I took all the little guts to the pin and put the pins back together. You just put them all in there, and after putting them back together, I always click every pin a couple of good times just to make sure that there's no issues, no epoxy trying to hang anything up. I just want to make sure that it is good and functional before I send it to my customers. There are so many different things that we can do to these pins and to tumblers and everything to just make them absolutely beautiful. And I love seeing so many different products out there to help make our lives easier in doing so, and quicker. That's what I love about this UV resin. It is so fast. So, and then also with this pin twist and stand, it's awesome. And I want to give a huge thank you to all of my Patreons. Y'all are amazing. I appreciate y'all more than you will ever realize. And we had a great pre-launch on the website. If you have any questions, please comment below, and be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Also, I hope y'all have a great day. Bye.